Hello and welcome to the Opposites Abroad podcast. This is a podcast about all things travel from two friends with totally different tastes but a shared passion who somehow manage to always have a good time when traveling. My name is Charlie Bosco, joined by my good friend TT, Traveller Tattooed on Instagram. How's it going in Denver, T?
It's going good. I just got back 2 days ago from Madrid and enjoying my weekend at home.
How's the jet lag?
I was up at 2:30 in the morning, but I finally fell back asleep after a couple hours. So it gets rougher the older we get, I think.
All right, well, I won't keep you up too long in case you turn into a pumpkin. But the two of us met in North Korea. Great traveling name drop. And we'll talk more about North Korea in future episodes. And we'll do profiles on different countries. But North Korea will most certainly feature at some stage. And since then, we've met up in Italy, Taiwan, the US, where you live, and Canada, where I live. Hopefully meeting up again before too long. But until then, we're online. So what can you expect from this podcast? Well, we hope we're going to provide you with some information, some inspiration, and hopefully a few laughs. And I even asked ChatGPT, is there a word that begins with I that means funny? Because then it would have been information, inspiration, and the best it could come up with was irony.
Not idiocy.
There could be some of that as well. And we'll do a show every week. We'll do profiles of countries we've visited. We'll cover general travel topics, like how to pick a destination, how to eat well when traveling, and provide some travel tips to get the most out of travel and life. Should we introduce ourselves a bit? You want to go first?
Yeah, and the first thing I'll say is that, to piggyback on what you just said, I think traveling is a skill, and it's really a tough skill to get. And I think we're both very well traveled. You've been to places longer than I have, but I've been to a lot of places on trips. And every trip I come back from, I learn some valuable lesson. And hopefully we can save some people from having some of the pains that we've probably experienced learning those lessons. So I think it'll be good.
Yeah, we were just talking off air about the fact that you probably only lose your wallet once.
Yes, and I remember one time I was flying to Jersey, which, people in the United States have never heard of, but that's where New Jersey comes from.
Jersey, England.
Jersey, England, with an island in the Channel Islands between England and France. And I was going for like 2 days, so I only brought one pair of jeans, which I was wearing on the plane. And it never occurred to me to have button fly. So my zipper just disintegrates into nothingness in the bathroom on the plane. And I basically had like no pants for the entire trip. So it's lessons like that button fly is better for traveling than zippers. You learn the hard way sometimes.
You know what? I did not know that. Duly noted.
Yeah.
See, I'm already learning. We're 5 minutes in.
Yeah, learn from my pain. So where were we? I'm telling about myself as I got sidetracked.
Yeah, go for it. Come on. Who are you? Who is Traveller Tattooed?
So, you'll get little tidbits of my life. I'm sure through this I do try to stay fairly private in some ways. I think part of my philosophy on life, I was a cancer survivor at a young age. And when I came out of that, that's when I started really wanting to travel. I started getting more tattooed. I started being more interested in life and experiencing things. So I think that was really a big part of my life. I love history. I love going to new places, trying new foods, and learning new things. One of the ways that people realize how different we are is that I'm very much into cities. I think because I live in Colorado and I have the mountains right there, as you know, being from the country that we beat in the war, is that Americans are obsessed with history a lot of times because we don't have a lot of history, where the oldest building in Colorado would be kind of like a new flat in London. So I like going to different places and seeing that kind of that stuff. So I also am really into road trips. I like American food. I like American history. So I like that stuff as well as going to some pretty obscure and also some touristy places.
Yeah, and you like, you know what, we'll come in a second to how we differ. We made a list of how we differ and how we're similar. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Charlie. Like you, I love travel, but my focus has been, I guess, more on adventure. So my first loves were outdoor sports, particularly mountain sports, climbing, mountaineering, skiing. And I've had a lot of jobs which involve travel. I started out as an expedition leader. So I led a lot of mountaineering expeditions, and that was great. Took me to the Himalayas an awful lot, the Andes, a lot of Africa. So I've always liked having jobs that involve travel, but I try and keep home and travel separate. But any job that involves new people, new places has always appealed, and that's enabled me to see a lot of the world without necessarily having to pay for it. But my love of mountain sports and adventure, I guess, has led to a lot of my travel. So I generally don't go somewhere for no reason. I'll go because I want to climb a mountain, or I want to paddle a river, I want to do a hike. But I try and pick those summits or those rivers or those hikes because they're in interesting places. So, for example, I've been skiing in Romania. I probably never just get on a plane and go to Romania, but I know there's better skiing elsewhere in the world. It's a combination of having some skiing with a good excuse to go somewhere interesting. That's what I'm always looking for, and I probably wouldn't have got to know Kathmandu, Marrakesh, Tromso if I hadn't been through mountain sports. So I kind of travel a bit more for a reason, but you are teaching me bit by bit to just go somewhere with huge inverted commas, no reason.
See, and I went to Romania because I wanted to go to Dracula's castle. So... yeah, and the trip we met on in North Korea, and when we went to Taipei in Taiwan, some of that was you were there for work, and then you were adding a few days to go see something new. So, I think that's a good way to go see places, is just add little things on like you were doing.
Yeah, as I say, I've always wanted jobs where possible. It's not always possible for work or for lifestyle where you can have a job that involves travel, but if you can get one, it enables you to see some great stuff and then tag on some extra great stuff as well. So we've already touched on it a little bit, how we differ. In our notes, the first thing I put is culture versus outdoors. That makes me sound like a completely uncultured chimpanzee.
No, you can't. You sound cultured because you're British.
I sound distinguished.
Yeah. You always sound smarter than we do in America, just from that.
You know what? I was about to pass comment on the recent US election. We'll just skip over that. But yeah, I guess the key difference really is you're a culture vulture. How you love museums, architecture.
I do. I like a lot of the stuff that I don't get at home, I think. I spent a semester in college in England. I really love British culture. That's where my family came from originally before we came to the United States, and later beat the British in 2 different wars.
Not that you've mentioned it twice in the first 10 minutes.
But I do like the monarchy. I like Prince Andrew.
Yeah, he's had some interesting relations in the US as well.
Yeah, he has.
He's had some good friends. He doesn't have as many right now, but
yeah, I think he's living his life in that crumbling mansion while they try to decide what to do with them.
Well, I would have 1 or 2 suggestions, but yeah, they probably don't fit in with the justice system in the UK. But yeah, I think the less said about Prince Andrew, the better. I wasn't expecting to talk about him today. I have to be honest.
I added it to our notes. So, yeah, I love all that stuff that I don't get, and I think that's kind of where we probably both are in some ways, because
yeah.
I think you didn't grow up in a, I love England, but England's not known for being like a hiker's paradise or a, I don't know what the tallest mountain is in England.
It's Scafell Pike in the Lake District.
Or the skiing or the mountaineering is it. So I think we are all kind of drawn towards things that we don't normally have. And for me, growing up in Colorado, I think it's craving some of that history and culture. We're just such a young country, and I really looked forward to getting out and seeing some of that stuff. So I love going to museums, and I love going to see old buildings and architecture. And I just think it's fascinating, and trying different foods and things like that. That's not something that I really get a lot here.
But I think, ironically, to a European, there's something amazingly appealing about America, because I remember talking to a Swiss guide once in the Swiss Alps, and she said to me that she loves tradition, she loves history, but sometimes it can feel like a weight around your shoulders. And I think in Europe sometimes that tradition can weigh heavily. And so to me, and I think to a lot of Europeans, there's a real appeal to America. And so what you said about wanting what you don't have is probably true, because I remember the first time I came to America, and obviously now I live in North America, albeit north of the border. But there is a real feeling that you can do anything and you can be anything. And there's just a lot of Canadians have said to me, you do you. As in, there isn't kind of a culture to fit into in the same way that there is in Europe. And I think to some Europeans, me included, that almost the lack of history and the fact that you can just go and decide who you want to be and how you want to live, that's really appealing. And I think as well, America has a glamour. So I grew up in the north of England, in between Liverpool and Manchester, and it's perfectly nice. It's not a horrible place, but it's kind of grey. It's not very inspiring. It's not somewhere that people go and get fired up by. And when you sit at home and the rain's beating down and you're watching TV from America and you hear of New York, Los Angeles, Detroit, Chicago, these places are so evocative and they're so amazingly appealing. So I think it goes both ways, that appeal. It's what you don't have, and that's probably something that you and I share, albeit it's in opposite directions.
Yeah, and I think you're right. And one of the things that I don't like about some travelers and American travelers that travel a lot is they kind of have this view of, America is just trash, or America it has no culture, and America has no history, and they want to leave and they just want to travel the world and never really look back. And I think they miss the point of America, and they miss the point of some of the things that America was founded on that were amazing. That moving away from monarchies into a democracy, even though it was flawed in some ways. And America has this culture that other countries really look up to, whether it's music, whether it's movies, whether it's Texas barbecue or the road trip down Route 66, all that kind of stuff, westerns and cowboys, and you're in England or you're in Tokyo and you watch a western from the 50s or 60s, and it's these massive open spaces, and you don't know what's out there, and there's a romanticism to America that I think has been lost some on younger generations from America, because they just don't see it. And I think one of the things that I think of, and maybe it's, being a cancer survivor or being well-traveled, is there's really cool stuff everywhere. And there's very few places in the world that I've been where I can't find something really cool and can't appreciate a new culture while still appreciating my culture.
Yeah. And I don't think that romanticism of America has been lost elsewhere in the world. So it might have been lost in America by some people, but I still think it's the idea of America is still very inspiring to me, and I think it's the only country in the world that's ever been founded on an ideal and not a territorial claim, and I do think it's a really special place. So it's really interesting to hear you talk about what you love about Europe, because I have the same thing for America, albeit for very different reasons. And I have to say, I'm a bit of an American history buff too, and DC is one place I would like to spend an awful lot more time. I was there for 4 days. I could have spent 4 months there just wandering around and immersing yourself in the American history. Because the other thing about American history is it's so recent that you can kind of relate to it. A lot of it happens and you think, my grandma lived to 104 So basically, two of my grandma. This kind of covers the whole of America.
Yeah.
And so it's so relatable. So we will talk more, I'm sure, about America. And as you can already tell, we'll probably go on a few tangents and stuff, but hopefully they're interesting. I was just getting back to how we differ. The one thing you have not managed to convert me on just yet is your love of shopping.
I do. I'll keep some things private. I would tell you, and whoever's listening, that my job that I've had for a long time isn't one that's surrounded by beauty. And so for me, in my personal time, in my time traveling, I want to be surrounded by things that are nice and beautiful and well made and happy. So I do love nice things, and I do love a little bit of luxury. The older I get, I'm not someone who wants to go stay in a hostel. I remember one of my buddies telling me one time, who does not share my views on luxury, that he was having trouble finding a 20-foot cord for his phone. And I said, why do you need a 20-foot cord for your phone? And he goes, well, when I stay in hostels, the outlet sometimes is like way across the room because I'm in a dorm with a bunch of people. And I'm like, I'm looking, I'm like, you're almost 50 years old, and I know how much money you make. You don't need to stay in a hostel with 20 different people with a bunch of teenagers, and like, you can afford to have a room of your own. Like, it's okay to splurge a little bit. And so, we all value different things. I thought that was such a strange thing to be looking for. Well, I'd be looking for, I want to have a really nice sport coat to wear in the plane because I feel like I get treated better when I check into my flight. And he's looking for a 20-foot cord for his phone. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. The last time I stayed in a hostel, it probably is a while. I mean, I'm learning to appreciate kind of the finer things in life a little bit more with a little bit more comfort. But yeah, it's the shopping that I just can't deal with. But,
yeah, I do like shopping. A lot of shopping for me is window shopping, and then I look for deals later. But I do enjoy that. It's fun.
No, I get it. I haven't worn a suit. I figured out I haven't worn a suit for 6 years, but when I do wear a suit, I really like it. So maybe if I was given the opportunity a little more often, you could win me over to nice things.
Let's go to, what's it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Savile Row? Is that in England where all the suits are?
Savile Row and Jermyn Street in London.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to go there and get custom suits made.
Exactly, German with a Y, Jermyn Street. I was there literally 3 weeks ago. We walked down Jermyn Street.
Oh, really?
It's all the famous.
Did you get a suit made?
I did. I figured once every 6 years, probably not. It's probably not a good investment. But I think one thing that hopefully people will pick up on is we probably share a lot more than we disagree on, and I think we're both big fans of that feeling of movement and the feeling of being in different places, and wherever you are, you're not going to be there long because you're going to be in another environment soon. You've got a trip booked, or you're going somewhere else, and you know that you're going to be moving around. I think we both find that a really rewarding element of life.
Yeah, I think we're both of the mind of like, what's over that hill, what's next. And if we had lived in a different time, we probably would have both been some sort of explorers. You probably would have frozen to death in some tundra somewhere, like eating your, other sailors that, trying to find the Northern Passage. And I probably would have died bitten by some horrible bug in some jungle somewhere, trying to, hack my way through a forest. But it's that need to go move and go do things. And you and I think, are kind of united by our desire to go see new things.
I think so. And I think we also have a pretty similar sense of humor. You're comfortably the most ironic and sarcastic American I know.
Thank you. I take that as a sense of pride. It's probably a lot of James Bond movies when I was a kid.
Sarcasm's the highest form of wit in England. And then I suppose the other thing I think we're probably quite aligned on is we probably have a pretty similar political and social outlook. Probably alienated by both ends of the political spectrum right now, and I suspect a lot of people listening feel the same way, where they don't really identify with what's going on with the more extreme right-wing elements of politics right now, but then that hard left is equally alienating to them. And I think we're probably pretty similar there in that we kind of wonder where the political middle went.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things that surprised me the most when I met you in North Korea, was that you and I are so similar with our basic philosophy of life. And we might have different interests, and we might like doing different things and experiencing different things, but I think we view politics, religion, social constructs pretty much the same, and that, which is amazing based on where we both grew up and our different backgrounds. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I think so. I remember talking to you, and I remember thinking, yeah, this guy's right.
Yeah, I can really see.
You thought what I thought, so
I can see why you're really enamored with me when we met. Like it really makes a lot of sense to me.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I finally met someone who told me I was right about everything. I'm definitely not married to someone who tells me I'm right about everything. So we were going to do some quick fire questions next, but it feels more logical to talk about why we're starting a podcast. And I suppose we've talked about it for a while, haven't we? And I've had a podcast before.
We have.
And I think, whilst I think I am fantastically charismatic and amusing, and I think we can be entertaining, I think hopefully we will be useful to people, because nothing beats that bit of inside information. I don't want to go somewhere and someone's already told me all the stuff. I want to go and find it for myself, but nothing beats someone saying, hey, this district of Tokyo is great, or when you go to London, buy a suit on Jermyn Street, or when you go to Kathmandu, there's a bar behind that bar and it's better than the one everyone goes to. So hopefully a little bit of inside information. And I think also when we talked about it recently, you said that you feel that maybe from being online and social media, you can help people out a little bit. And it may be that we're informing. It might just be that there's a bit of inspiration in there, or people just love hearing about interesting places. But I think there's definitely a value add that we can give to people's lives.
Yes, I think that it's taken me some time to come to terms with that. Not everybody has to have my love of exploration to be happy and have a happy life. But sometimes people want to listen to things that maybe they don't even want to do. If we talk about a place, I've talked to many friends about our trip to North Korea, and I've had almost nobody be like, oh, I want to go to North Korea. Like, most people are like, you're crazy, why would you do that? But they still want to hear about it. And what I just want to encourage people to is like you said, move, read books, experience life, and whatever that means for them. Maybe that means they fly across the world. Maybe it means they walk to a park and see some monument in their hometown they've never done. It's just, there's lots of different ways to experience things, and nothing's right or wrong. Whatever gives people joy is good, I think. Yeah,
absolutely. And I definitely listen to some podcasts because they inform. I listen to some because they inspire. There's some topics I get super interested in. I went deep on the moon landings recently, and I'm never going to be an astronaut.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I'll never go to the moon, but I just found it interesting. So hopefully we can provide something of value to someone, even if it's just a good listen, or maybe it's just that key bit of information, or just that tiny bit of inspiration that kickstarts you to book a trip that you had always dreamed of booking. And a climbing friend of mine has a phrase. We're going to keep this swearing free, but he says, just book the ticket, albeit there's an extra expletive before ticket. So he says, just book the ticket. And that's a piece of advice that I've always tried to take, is you're kind of pondering and you think, it's very unlikely at the end of my life that I will say, God, I wish I hadn't done that trip.
Yeah.
I wish I just stayed home.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can, fire people up to do that big trip.
Yeah, I agree. I think that people regret things they didn't do more than the things they did, and especially when they're older. So just go do things, and it's so much easier to book something quickly, make plans quickly, and enjoy it than agonizing forever over things and then end up never doing anything. And you can agonize over a trip, or should I go some weekend, and the years just go by and you never end up doing anything, or just book it and figure it out.
Yeah, I totally agree. Coincidentally, on Thursday night, I tried to go out for a bit of an explore in the woods with a friend of mine, and we got his truck stuck horrifically in the snow, and we were digging it out for hours, and it was a complete nightmare, and we ended up back at my house drinking beers and laughing our backsides off. And so whilst it sucked being out there at the time, I'm still really glad we just went and had a complete nightmare. So kind of not the worst, almost the worst that can happen on a trip is you don't enjoy it, but I guarantee you those are the trips where the best stories come from.
Yeah,
so
and that's
just book the ticket.
That's a perfect example of what you were saying earlier, because I don't want to do that at all. I don't want to go out and dig a truck out of the snow. But I liked hearing your story about it. Yeah, but I liked hearing your story.
And if you'd been there, you'd have been swearing with us and getting annoyed and everything, and then you'd have been sitting on the couch drinking a beer and laughing at it. And
or even better, just sit on the couch drinking a beer, and when you guys get back, like, how is that?
Yeah, in fact, now I think about it, I think you're right. Right, let's finish off. We'll do some quick fire questions just so people can get a bit of a sense of our taste. Quick fire questions. Best city for food?
That's Singapore.
That's a left field answer. I was not expecting that.
Anywhere in Italy is amazing. I do love, I'll throw out a little thing for you. I do love fish and chips.
Well, of course. In England. You like the finer things in life.
Fish and chips in England is awesome. And then I tell you, barbecue in America is one of my favorite things.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
The different regional barbecues, whether it's North Carolina, Texas, Kansas City, I just love that. What about you?
I will go for Tokyo. I think what I love about Tokyo, I love sushi. Sushi and ramen are two of my favorite foods, but I just love the fact that it's kind of good everywhere. So most of the great sushi I've had in Japan or ramen I've had, I could never find the place again.
Yeah.
Because it's such a maze. It's the biggest city in the world. A lot of the streets are kind of hard to distinguish, and I can't read the road signs anyway, so you kind of stumble across these places and have amazing meals, and even as you're eating it, you kind of know you'll never go again.
Yeah.
And there's something really special about that, because you can't recommend it to anyone. It's just you're very much living in the present, and that's something I really enjoyed in Tokyo, was exceptional food, but every time you're in this place, 9 times out of 10 you think, well, I just will never find this again, so I just got to enjoy this moment.
Well, I love Japanese culture, and I love how they really view things as a sense of pride. So there's really not like horrible restaurants in Tokyo or in Japan. Yeah. Like, so I say I love barbecue and I love Texas barbecue, but that doesn't mean every Texas barbecue place is good. And in Tokyo, a little hole in the wall place, they take it very seriously. It's a sense of pride to their culture, and the food's awesome. I actually really agree with Japan. I think Japan is great food.
The other element of it is you're always amongst real people, because Japan has one of the lowest percentages of immigrants of any Western, well, it's not Western, but any first world country. And so anytime you go and eat in a restaurant, you are surrounded by locals who just happen to be there on their lunch break. You're not surrounded by tourists. So it's a very genuine experience. So I'll go Tokyo. Best city for safety. So if someone's not traveled much, they just want to go somewhere, not have to think about it. Are you going to say Singapore again?
I was just thinking Singapore. I've heard stories of Singapore where someone would lose their wallet on the street and come back like 3 days later and it's still sitting there. Now, you don't want to go to Singapore and commit any crimes because they'll like publicly flog you. But
it's safe. It's safe for the people that aren't committing the crimes.
Yes, they don't have a lot of the rights we have in the U.S. There's no right to assemble. There's no right to like protest. But it's very safe. I always recommend people that aren't very well traveled in the U.S. when they ask my opinion. I always tell them to go to England for their first trip and go to London. I'm not saying that London's the safest place in the world, but because it's English, it's so much easier to navigate. Going to some place, I would never tell someone for their first trip out of the U.S. to go to like Egypt. Like never ever would do that. But most of Western Europe is very safe. Japan is super safe.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Again, I could probably go Tokyo, but for the sake of a new answer, I'd probably go Munich. Germany has exceptionally low crime rate. It's very civilized, very clean. It's really easy to be in Germany. Everybody speaks English. Yeah, it's a really safe, kind of civilized, clean, easy place. So, and I really like Munich. It's my kind of city. There's a lot of green space, a lot of history, great bars. So, you want to go somewhere safe and just not worry about it and have friendly, easy people, then I'd say probably Munich. Next category, best city for history.
Oh, that's a really
broad question.
That's a really tough one. And there's some places I haven't been. I mean, if you're looking at strict history, ancient, there's different periods of history. Egypt has an amazing history. Rome, Greece, back to Japan has amazing history. I think it kind of depends on what you're interested in. You're interested in nautical history. England is amazing. Portugal is amazing. It really depends kind of on what you like. But
yeah, I think
Rome's pretty hard to beat, I think.
Yeah, I've never been to Rome. But no, it's a bit of a broad question. I would agree that it really depends what you're into. I think for older history, I think London is pretty hard to beat. You got the Tower. I went to the Churchill War Museums a couple of weeks ago. That was amazing. Britain's just got such an interesting history.
Yeah.
And then the other place I would have is probably maybe a bit left field is DC.
Oh, I can see that, yeah.
Because I, as I say, I love American history, and you kind of, I rented bikes, and you go to the Jefferson Memorial and the Lincoln Memorial, and there's the plaque where Martin Luther King delivered the "I Have a Dream" speech, and then you go to the White House, and you're kind of looking at the Truman balcony, and you think, wow, just think who stood there.
Well, and there's a lot less plunder in Washington D.C. than there is in the British Museum.
That's very true, actually. Yeah. One or two foreign policy errors have been committed by DC, but a lot less. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, we didn't steal the stuff off the Pantheon.
We tried to steal a load of stuff from DC, but you beat us. Yeah.
I think you burned the White House or the previous White House, whatever it was called back then.
Yeah, it was on the same spot, wasn't it? The British burned it down. Favorite city? Probably not city. Favorite beaches?
I haven't been everywhere for beaches. Everyone says, or a lot of people say, the Maldives is the best. I have not been there. I think for a place close to the U.S., the Bahamas have amazing beaches. Aruba has amazing beaches. I don't really like Australia because I don't want to get eaten by a great white shark.
That's a problem.
But, and you kind of look at, are the locals going in the water? and if the locals aren't going in the water, then I kind of don't really want to go in the water. But I think those white sand beaches with crystal blue water like in the Bahamas are pretty tough to beat.
I'm going to go for... I haven't spent a lot of time on beaches, but I would say Croatia would be right up there.
Okay.
And also a historical element. We went to a tiny island off Croatia, and it had Tito, General Tito, written in huge letters made of little rocks on the side of the hill, and it was really, really eerie.
Wow.
But beneath it was literally one of the best beaches I've ever been to, and it's the Mediterranean, so it's warm. There's no tide. There's no predators.
Yeah.
There's jellyfish, but it's pretty, it's very civilized. So I'll grow Croatia, but as I get older, I think I want to see more and more beaches. Did you like Bill Hicks, the comedian? Do you remember Bill Hicks?
I don't.
He was always saying, "What is it with you people and beaches?" He's like, "It's where dirt meets water." It's like, what was so incredible about this? Okay, Croatia. Oh, Bill Hicks also said he didn't like the beach in LA because everyone had tan skin and white teeth. And he said, "Well, I got white skin and tan teeth." So. Best city for. I mean, I put nicest people. Which city have you been to where you enjoyed the people the most?
I think southern United States have some very nice people. Fiji is known for really nice people. I think on the flip side, Eastern Europe aren't the friendliest.
Well, hold that thought.
Yeah. Are we gonna do worst cities for things on another one?
No, I'm gonna say my city for nicest people is in Eastern Europe.
Where is it?
Pristina in Kosovo.
I've never been there.
They are the friendliest people because they view us, as in English people and Americans, as the people that saved them in the Kosovo War. So there's George Bush Avenue, there's Tony Blair Avenue, and as soon as they hear your accent, people are coming up to us and going, "Thank you so much." I was thinking, well, I was 13 at the time, but I mean, you're welcome.
Yeah, the French aren't like that at all. They're not very appreciative of.
No, they quite the opposite actually. No one's ever answered Paris to that question, have they? Where are the nicest people? Nobody will say Paris. No, but I would actually say Pristina. The people were so friendly and just a genuine warmth. It was as if they were still over the moon that they'd got their independence, and they felt like they owed it to us, even though I literally, to say I had nothing to do. I wasn't even a taxpayer at the time of the war. But yeah, amazingly warm, friendly people. Where is the best city for scenery?
What do you mean by scenery?
Cities that have natural beauty around them, like La Paz in Bolivia or somewhere like that.
I'm really not a big scenery person. One thing I don't like is like going up to some really tall building and looking around. I'll do it if I'm with somebody and they want to do it, but generally I'm up there for 2 seconds and I'm like, okay, like what? I'm
another tall building.
I'm over it. I don't know. Some places are just really, really pretty. And I think Europe has a lot of, you see these old cathedrals and you see these medieval parts of town I think are beautiful. Anywhere with big parks, big parks in France are gorgeous. I love the English countryside. I think the scenery in the United States can be amazing. Some cities are a lot prettier than others. I'm just not that into scenery really. Like it's just not really my thing. Other than I do think an ocean can be beautiful. Sitting out and having a cocktail or coffee or tea in the morning and looking at the ocean, it can be amazing. So, what do you think?
I'll go Tromsø, the north coast of Norway. Every street you walk down, you can either see a snow-capped mountain or these kind of deep, dark fjords all around it. Northern Norway has a light that I haven't seen anywhere else. They get this blue light.
Yeah.
The Arctic light. This is probably not in the height of summer. I've been there in March, April, May. But they get this incredible blue light, and Tromsø is just... It's you go up there and it's like the rest of the world is just gone. And you're just in this town, and from everywhere in the town you can see a snow-capped peak or the deep fjords. And there's actually some quite cool bars as well, so it's a fun place to be. But as you walk in between the bars, you kind of look up and it takes your breath away. So
I'll tell you, the best view I've ever had from a hotel room was in Niagara Falls, Canada.
Yeah, that must be great. I've never been.
It was really, really cool sitting in the room looking at the falls.
Can you hear the falls from the room?
Oh yeah. I even left my window open at night because it's almost like the beach where you can hear the beach crashing, but you can hear the falls, and it was awesome.
Oh, you get the best sleep when you can hear water running.
Yes. That's why I always leave my shower on all night.
Well, America's getting rid of the EPA anyway, so you
that's what I heard.
Your environmental impact.
Yeah, anything that's an acronym, I think we're getting rid of.
Okay, we're just not going there. And final one, best city for beers, bars.
I think we'll agree with that. England. I went. Well, that's you said city, so I guess that would be like London. But I think England has the best pubs, the best bars. I'm not a huge bar person when I travel. I tend to think going out at night is when kind of bad things happen. But I think that London just has these really cool pubs, just old, so many memories in those, and famous people that have historical authors that have gone to them. They're just, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I was going to come up with something else, but actually I think you're right. I think London, although the town I went to university at, Newcastle upon Tyne in the northeast of England, maybe lacks that cultural element of London. But if you just want to get insanely rowdy and just really have an unforgettable, insane party, then Newcastle's pretty hard to beat.
I think you told me Manchester is like the best for bars.
Manchester's pretty good.
I heard you telling me stories at one point about Manchester.
It may not be podcast but I tell you, in the 90s, 80s and 90s, Manchester was one of the best places in the world to go out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would probably be it. I can't do much better than that. Cool. All right. Well, we will call it a day, and we will speak in a week's time, where the topic will be eating when traveling. And we'll talk about how you can avoid jet lag with eating, what the best strategies to eat safely whilst also experiencing the local cuisine are. Basically anything to do with getting calories inside whilst traveling, we're going to be covering next week. So if that sounds interesting, you'd like to hear more from us, hit that subscribe button, make sure you turn on notifications. TT, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
We'll speak next week.
Sounds good. Thanks.